Welcome back to Bringing Hope and Freedom. Today we are unpacking the act of taking communion.
Oh, the act of taking communion.
What? Or
not communion. I'm just joking.
I guess. Why you gotta be like that?
You ruined your opening every time.
Yeah. And also, this is the 20th episode.
Yes.
We should have had the 20 the balloons.
Oh.
And like some poppers.
Maybe for 100.
Yeah. I don't think it's real until it's 100 in.
Okay, all right.
Because no one cares about the TV series until they're 100 in.
Listen, when it comes to 100, we're going to be like on stage doing a live show.
We'll give ourselves a reward.
A live show.
We'll do a live show.
You are the most popular podcast in Abundant Life.
That is true.
That is very true, yes.
Have you guys ever seen those, I don't know if those that are watching have ever had this before, but like, have you been sent the email like, your company's the best company in Largo for this thing? Have you ever got those emails? Oh,
Where you're like the top 100,
yeah.
like
it's so funny.
Through the newspaper
we
usually.
We used to get it in Maryland all the time, like, you're the best business in this in Silver Spring. Pay $100 to get your plaque. I'm like, no! You know, 100, like,
here's your award.
Yeah, like Joe Rogan, they wanted Joe Rogan to pay like $500 to get into the podcast series for the Grammys or something like that. And he's like, my podcast is number one. Why am I going to pay you guys $500?
Yeah. Exactly.
I was laughing so hard.
That's funny.
I was just thinking about those emails. You're the best business. I don't think so. I think this is a scam. Yeah. But I did it one time. I sent in $100. I was like, I want a plaque today.
Did you get the plaque?
Oh yeah, I got it.
Well, the newspapers usually like have them in the paper,
do.
and then you check like the businesses or whatever. And if you win, they like, hey, if you want a plaque or you want anything, you got to send us money.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't survey my company.
I know,
you did, so you sent it to me.
Why do I have to pay for this?
True.
Exactly.
But it's because that ego gets in the way. You're like, well, I want a plaque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything with it. It's going to go in a drawer.
All right, we should commit to buy ourselves a plaque for the 100th episode.
Okay. All right.
We'll get ourselves one of those.
You heard it here.
And we'll put like the YouTube thing right
We'll hang it
there.
on here.
You know, because all the YouTube podcasters, they have it up there. They have
Yes.
their little silver
For the
or
background.
platinum.
Once you hit like 1 million followers or something, they send you one. But they actually will send it to you. I don't think you have to pay for it. I don't think you have to.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
All right, so we're unpacking communion.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about why we do it, who should do it, what it means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular order?
Well, we have a couple questions here.
All right, let's go.
So when we take communion,
Mm-hmm.
what is actually happening spiritually?
Okay.
Is it just like remembrance, or are we participating in something more real than that?
Well, that's a good question. I like that question. I like the way the question is worded. What is going on spiritually, right? That's what you're asking. Okay, so what's going on spiritually? Are we just doing something to remember something? Okay, so what's going on? Well, okay, number one, I think the answer to those questions is first that yes, we are remembering something. So communion is a remembrance of what Jesus Christ did for us at the cross. And he instructs us, and he says that, very specifically. So when he instates communion, or when he says to his disciples on the night before he goes to sacrifice himself, and he communicates to them and he says very specifically, do this in remembrance of me. So we are remembering what Christ has done, and we are bringing to mind all of those things that it represents. So I think that the negative of that, so the pro is, hey, remember this amazing thing that has happened for all of humanity, right? Not just for one individual or one section of the world, but for all people everywhere. Christ died for their sins and paid the price. So the dark side of that sometimes becomes that people would say that's the only thing that we're doing in communion, and that there's no substance to it. And so when you think about religion can speak to practice, it can speak to liturgy, and it can speak to, hey, we're remembering a bunch of things in the past that we're thankful for. And unfortunately, what can happen over time if people just have religious practice or religious act without meaning or substance is we can, because we brought little communion cups with us, okay, we can do this thing, but there's no life in it because we're just remembering something that's in the past that has no power or validity for us today. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that, yes, we are remembering something. The dark side, if I can say it that way, or the negative of only viewing it in light of remembering something is to think that this has no power and no substance. And I would caution people in religious practice where they just do something just to do it. And Jesus would caution us in that way, and the writers of the New Testament would caution us in that way. He said, hold on a second. Everything in Christ has substance. Everything in Christ has meaning. And so everything that he did was purposeful, it was powerful, and it translates through all of time. So you can't just think about the sacrifice of Jesus at the cross for just that moment and just think, well, thanks for that. Because you're missing the power and the substance of what that means. Because everything is spiritual. So every single act and every single thing that Jesus Christ did for us had spiritual connotation, has practical results, and we see those things in our lives, but there's spiritual meaning that's there too. So yes, the practice is important for remembering, and I think we should remember. We should remember all kinds of things. And that's what the Old Testament is for. So much of the Old Testament is for us to remember why all this was so important. Remember why the sacrifice of Christ was important. Remember where we came from. Like your family, each of your families has a story, right? Do you guys feel like you're better off now in your lives than your parents were in their life growing up?
What do you mean by that?
Well, like where you are financially, where you are in your relationship with one another, where you are at this phase in your life. Do you guys feel like, hey, we've progressed a little bit farther than where our parents were?
I think so.
I think
Okay, in what ways? In what ways do you guys feel like you've progressed in your life? I know your parents are listening, so we're not shooting you guys down.
Yeah. Not you.
Well, like for me, I was able to go to college right out of high school.
Okay.
Where, my parents didn't have that opportunity. My parents were married younger as well as us, but I think us coming out of school, we both got jobs pretty quickly, started making money fairly quickly to support ourselves. I think we owned a home for 6 months or so we were married, so
yeah, that's great.
Further ahead than them.
Yeah. My mom for a long time was a single mom living on a fixed income, so there weren't a lot of opportunities for her. And so I think for me that's drastically different, and nothing against that, being a single mom.
Sure.
And then she married my stepfather, and life changed completely for her. But I definitely think at this stage in my life, I'm much further along than my parents were. And
do you find that you appreciate what you have now, given what could have been, given what they went through, all the sacrifices?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, that's why it's important to remember it.
And I think they taught us that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the value of remembering, is we don't lose the significance of the sacrifice. Our parents, the people that have come before us, make these tremendous sacrifices for us to have better lives. And so in order to honor, what does it mean to honor and respect your parents? I think it means to live a life worthy of the sacrifice that they've made for us.
For sure.
Yeah,
don't repeat the same mistakes.
Right.
Live a life worthy of the calling. Yeah. Live a life worthy of the sacrifice that's been made. So remembering has a lot of value, has a lot of meaning. I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's important because it reminds us of the sacrifice. But the sacrifice has meaning and it has power, and there's a spiritual thing that is going on. For instance, Paul, when he's talking about communion, he encourages people not to take communion if they're not followers of Jesus Christ because of what it's going to do inside of them. He says that some have grown sick and even died as a result of taking it improperly.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Nope, that's what I was going to say, so go ahead.
I know, right?
I know where you're going.
It's on here, yeah.
Okay.
So you do caution people when we
Yes.
do this in service, before, after, during.
Yeah.
You say if you're not ready,
Yeah.
then don't do it. So
Sure.
kind of explain that, because I'll be honest, when I was a kid, I was just doing it because the thing was passed to me.
Right.
I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I think understanding communion is important. We are taking part in the Lord's suffering. So this is the body and the blood of Jesus Christ that has been given for us. and we are remembering and taking part. Communion, I think means to share, right? To commune, to connect, to share. And so we are sharing in something as a result of what we're doing, which is why I don't think you should just do it. Don't do it just to remember. Understand the significance of it, and by faith, commune and take part in the Lord's suffering, because it's the Lord's suffering that brings you salvation, that brings you freedom, that brings you life. Well, in the same way that this cup can bring you life, and doing it for the wrong reasons and the wrong ways, for the wrong motivations, can bring you death. And I would liken it to the person who gives money or tithes or gives offerings or gives money in church and gives it with a poor heart, gives it with the wrong heart, with the wrong attitude, gives it begrudgingly in an angry fashion, and then gets mad at God like, why isn't things changing? Okay, so like death can have a broader meaning than actual mortality. And, I think that there's some death going on. I think that there's some real grief and real pain that's going on inside of that person's life. They're not doing the thing that they're instructed to do with the right heart, with an obedient heart, with a grateful heart, with a joyful heart. They're doing it begrudgingly, or they're doing just to do it, and they're missing the meaning of it. And I think anything that's done in that way can ultimately produce death, because it's going to take you down a path of religion. And I should say maybe dead religion might be a better word. It's going to take you down the path of just dead religion, which is, well, if I just take this cup and I just give my money and I just read this Bible, I'm checking my spiritual boxes, but there's no substance to that. There's no life in that. It's a dead thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not producing life, it's producing death. It's just what the law does. And the law is just a weight on our life that can't ever be lived up to. Like, you can't measure up to the law, which is why Jesus had to come. You can't measure up in terms of your works of righteousness. You're never going to do enough good things to pay the penalty for sin. And so that's why it produces death. It's like you're going to be doing all these things, driving yourself mad, frustrating yourself, trying to fulfill this thing that can never be fulfilled by you in the first place. So that produces death in life. Make sense?
So if you're not saved, then you shouldn't be taking communion till after you are saved.
Yeah, I would say that's why I try to caution people, like, hold on to this. And I try to say, what I want to do is I want them to open up the cup and hold the bread in their hand, because the bread represents the body of Christ.
You gonna try and open that? It'll take you a while.
Oh man, I am a pro. Bam, look at that.
One question on the list. You know how to open these? Why are they so hard to open?
I don't know what you guys, if you go to church somewhere, you have it depends on the run.
Right.
Right? So I can tell if it's a really crazy glue or if it's not. But here's the let me show this for the people.
Okay.
One more time. You've got to do that, and then when it's up, you've got to.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes I got to do it with one hand.
Now I will say, when you go, now sometimes when you break this part off, whenever you're trying to take for the juice,
you just get another.
This sometimes snaps completely, and then you have nothing to grab.
Okay, again, on that, you just want to go up. You don't really want to go down. See,
okay.
See, what people do is they take this part down. Fatal error.
Yes.
Fatal error, especially if you're conducting communion. You just want to go up. You're just trying to go up with a little flap. Right. And then you leave it up, and then what I do is I take the little plastic, and then I'm done.
Yeah, the plastic's very easy across the top to get to the bread.
So, but the key is only go up, people.
You listening?
Okay, don't go down. If you go down, you're going to spill the communion cup on yourself, and then you might not be able to take communion that week. So, because we have a 1-for-1.
Yeah, you can't get more than that.
We have a 1-for-1 policy. Sorry, you've got to stay sinning this week.
The old cups were very hard to take off.
Yes.
And it seemed like every time in our aisle, I would get mine open, and then they would just continue, and I'm like, as long as he doesn't get to the cup before I get all the aisles open, we're in good shape. Man,
there was one time I'm doing communion, and I cannot get the second layer open. And so I'm like, forget it. And I just bite the thing. I take it because I'm like, what am I going to do, you know?
Up on stage, you just bite it.
I just bit it. So anyway.
I've learned to go like diagonally instead of straight back. If you want to
go to the side.
Yeah, it's much easier.
The things that you worry about in church.
In the olden days,
The old,
I used to pass around this tray that had the little. That
yeah,
had
it's
cups
called
in
the
them.
tinction method.
Oh.
The what method?
The tinction method. It's a specific, it was a specific thing. So one glass, and everyone dips the bread in it together.
Oh, no,
Well,
no.
no,
They
this
had
is-
like the kind of like the communion trays we have,
Oh, okay.
but they all had
Open-
cups
open little
of
cups. They
the
were all
juice
open. You
in
just
them.
took
Well,
one?
they also, in the olden days, had a goblet,
Yeah.
a large glass that you would dip into.
It was like Old Testament time.
Before they cared about germs.
Yeah.
I remember being a young kid at church, and the crackers were always so good that, like, after church, because we'd always have to, like, we'd be there till forever. Be like, it's communion day. I'm getting crackers after church, and we'd just sit there,
My
a bunch of us
brothers and
just
I,
eating them
we
out of
would
there.
fill the communion cups when we were a kid because we had a smaller church, and so you'd put the juice, and there was this little shooter that you would use. So you fill this plastic container up with the juice, and then you shoot it in the cups. We'd just be shooting each other's mouth, shooting the juice back. Oh man, yeah. But anyway, I think anything done, and this is important for people because I think this is what people can experience in their church experience, is they can experience what you could consider dead religion. Religious practices in and of themselves, I don't want to give a negative connotation. I think that's bad teaching, and I think it's bad thought process because the religious acts are important, they have meaning, and they have value, and I don't want to make it seem like religion is somehow inherently bad. Religion that is dead, religion that is not based in the substance and the power of the Spirit of God, I believe will lead you down a path that takes you into works-based salvation, where your good deeds and how well you do at stuff is going to lead you into salvation, which is, well, if that's true, then Christ doesn't have to die, and communion means nothing. We're not sharing in the suffering of Christ. We don't need to share in the suffering because our good works alone are going to get us there, which is fundamentally flawed. It's flawed. And there's a lot of religious systems that are built up in what would be called works-based salvation. Like if you are just a good person and you have a good conscience and you make good decisions, that somehow is going to lead you into eternity with Christ. And Jesus says that is not true. And you have to be aware, I believe, of that path, that slippery slope, that deceptive path that can take you into a dead works religion-based scenario. So we need to remember, it's important to remember. Remembering brings significance and value to the sacrifice that was made, that's true. But these things have meaning, they have substance, they have reality for us where we are today. Or why would Paul say don't do it if you're not saved?
Right.
Why would he, what's he saying? Is he just like warning people, hey, make sure to do communion right? No, he's talking about something deeply spiritual that's going on. And he's warning them. And I think this is very, very important. Why? Well, because we're forming union, we're together with Christ. We are communing together with the suffering of Christ. And you ought not treat the suffering of Christ with a light heart. You shouldn't treat this like amazing sacrifice of this sinless man who's also God. Don't treat that with contempt, and don't treat that as if this is ordinary or normal or commonplace, because it's not. And can I read something from the Bible real quick?
Sure.
I'm going to grab my phone.
I mean, it's a Christian podcast, so yeah.
I know. I just wanted to get my phone.
Yeah.
I don't have it memorized the way that I would like to have this memorized. And I don't want to paraphrase this because I think it's very important for people to get what I'm communicating and why I'm communicating. It comes from Hebrews 10. For if we sin willfully after we have received this is Hebrews 10, verse 26. For if we sin willfully after we have received the knowledge of truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful expectation of judgment and fiery indignation which will devour the adversaries. Gulp.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone who has rejected Moses' law dies without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much worse punishment do you suppose will he be thought worthy who has trampled the Son of God underfoot, counted the blood the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified a common thing, and insulted the Spirit of grace. For we know him who said, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. The Lord will judge his people. It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. So I think all throughout Scripture we see this consistent warning of treating the sacrifice of Jesus Christ with contempt, treating it as it's commonplace, not recognizing the power, the substance, and the reality that it is. And the warning of Paul is like, hey guys, this is powerful, this is meaningful. Don't just play with this because it could result in your death. Because you're coming to a holy place. You're coming to a holy God. We are sinful. We are the thing that needs to be washed. We're the thing that needs to be cleaned. And his sacrifice is the thing that does that. This is holy. And that's hard for people because this is just simply bread and juice. Like my brothers and I were doing something dumb. We weren't treating, because you're kids, and you do that when you're a kid because you don't know. And God's a good God, so we're not getting lit on fire, but we're treating this thing that is holy, that should have some reverence and respect. We're treating it as if it's commonplace. So I like to tell people to hold it in their hand. So as we preach and as we go forward in the service, my prayer is that it becomes like a fire in their hand. And they begin to understand this is meaningful. This matters. This isn't just a thing to do, what we're doing here. And it asks them that, and it kind of begs the question of them as they hold it in their hand. How do I view the sacrifice of Jesus Christ? What does it mean to me? Should it mean something to me? Do I just do stuff just to do it? Does that make sense?
Where is my heart at in
Right.
this right now? Yeah.
Right. Don't just do it. Don't just do it. Because it's the very body and blood of Christ, right? So,
How often should we do communion?
well, that's a great question. Jesus says, as often as you gather, do this in remembrance of me. So, I think it was Jesus' intention always that saints would begin gathering together, coming together. Very, very early on, we see that the same rhythm that the Jewish culture has in the Sabbath, the same rhythm that they have in gathering becomes the similar rhythm that the early Christians begin to gather. And whether you're gathering on a Saturday or Sunday, Paul's like, who cares whether you're gathering Saturday or Sunday? The point is to gather and to remember. Mm-hmm. And I think communion played a major, major role in the early church's life and the liturgy, the structure of the early church. And it should be an essential component of who we are and what we do.
So should you only be doing communion in church, or should Hall and I do communion at home together?
That's a
Or
good
both?
question. That's a great question. So Matt, there would be some Christian teachers that would say that you're not qualified, Matt, to do communion. I mean, you're not a priest, you're not a pastor, you're not qualified. And I would say that's garbage. Personally, I would say that's a bunch of garbage. Right. Who's the qualifier? Jesus Christ.
Right.
Okay. And Jesus and the teachings that we have from the Scriptures call us a royal priesthood, a holy nation. Each home and each person being the temple of the Holy Spirit, and each person being called and sanctified by God. So I would say as often as you decide to gather and come together in your family, do communion together. I mean, the Bible instructs us, do you guys know what the Bible says about how to not grow weary?
No.
Remember Jesus Christ and the suffering of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many people, I'm burnt out, or I'm so tired, right? I can't do this anymore. I'm so, it's like, ugh. Everybody's always stressed, and everybody's always tired, and everybody's always worried, right? But the Bible says, if you find yourself in that place, look upon Christ. Look upon the suffering of Christ. Mm-hmm. What if Jesus was like, I'm just burnt out, guys. I don't think I'm going to the cross.
Sorry, maybe next time.
Yeah. Maybe next week.
Yeah.
No. And so you look upon the suffering of Jesus Christ. It brings you strength. It reminds you, I haven't done that, and I'm not going through that. And even if I did go through that, I'm blessed. If I go through what he went through for his sake, then I've got a great seat in heaven. Right? But the truth is that we all don't go through that place. We don't sacrifice the way he sacrificed for us, for him.
Not at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Good.
Well, I think we sort of.
Yeah, I would
Maybe this
encourage
is a good
people
one.
to take communion as often as they possibly can together, take communion together. And you don't need a priest, you don't need a pastor to take communion. You need your high priest. And the Bible teaches us that Jesus is our high priest. Jesus is the Passover lamb. He's the sacrifice. And he's also the high priest that administers the sanctification for people. The atonement that needed to be paid for sin was paid in the life of Jesus Christ, but he's also the one who administers it in our life. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So he's our high priest. And so many of these practices have a reflection of what was going on in the Old Testament temple. All kinds of things. And we've talked about the priest being able to step into the holiest of holies and how that happened. And he had to be washed with blood in order to go into that place. And he would make atonement for the sins of the Israelites. And he would do that once a year. And so the connotation of that's going on, the meaning of what's going on around Jesus is our high priest. He's also our Passover. He is also the covering for sins. And so what's going on is we're being given access into the most holy of holies, into that place, and that place where God cleanses us, that place where God meets with us, that place where God teaches us. And I believe that spiritually speaking, all of those things are happening when we're taking communion. This is an opportunity. Like, what does the body represent? Right?
What do you mean by that?
Good question. The body that is broken for us. We talked about it before. Like, did he just need to get beat up, or did he need to die? He needed to die.
Right.
Yeah.
He needed to die. So when we hold this bread in our hands, I'm thinking about it. And I go back in my mind. This is why the Passion of the Christ, I think, is so good, because it does such a good job. It does such a good job walking us through that. And if people wanted to kind of have a sense of suffering that he went through, I'd encourage them to watch Passion of the Christ. It's going to be a tough thing to watch, but I'd encourage you to watch it, because that's real. Mm-hmm. The Romans were really, really good at killing people.
Yes.
They were great at torturing people. I'm pretty sure they invented crucifixion, if I'm remembering correctly, and they were masters at it, absolute masters at it. They knew how to make you suffer. They knew how to torture you to the extent where you were still alive and you wished that you were dead. And I mean, it was a science for them. It was it was extreme for even them to do. Like, to be crucified was an extreme thing, and they were extremely good at this very extreme thing. From how you were flogged and what you were used to be flogged. When I hold the bread in my hands, I think about his back, and I think about the fact that the Bible teaches us that he was marred and he was bruised beyond recognition, that you couldn't even tell what he really was, who he really was. I don't know if you've ever seen like a fighter after like a big fight, a boxer after a big, there's, but you can kind of still see who they are.
Right.
Have you ever seen like a bare knuckle fight? You ever seen any of those? You've seen them?
Yes.
Yeah. You can't really tell what they look like.
Right.
And I think about that. I don't know what people do when they take communion, but that's what I'm doing.
I just think about the walk, him carrying the cross to where they were going to put the cross into the ground, it over his shoulder, and like all I see is I reference about like the tattoos people have of like the claw marks, that's how like I visualize his back looking, to the point where like when he goes to be put against a cross, that the pain that he's going to feel, because it's just wide open.
Yeah.
That's what I think when I'm taking the bread. It's just that visual there of just, because he's beaten the whole way as he's carrying his cross, and they don't care.
No. And
it's just, it's, I don't know, a sick thought.
If maybe people have seen The Passion of the Christ, have you guys seen The Case for Christ?
No.
Okay, The Case for Christ is a movie based on Lee Strobel's life, and really the beginning of his Christian walk. I would suggest that you watch The Case for Christ. Go home at some point and watch The Case for Christ. If you've not seen The Case for Christ, I'd encourage you to do that. If you're a person searching for meaning in faith and you're searching for Christ and you want answers, you need to watch The Case for Christ. This is a real story. It really happened. This is a real person. Lee Strobel is an amazing author, and believer, but it tells his story of coming to faith. And he was an atheist, and he was a committed atheist, and he's a very accomplished writer. I'm pretty sure he worked for the Chicago Tribune in Chicago, and his wife got saved, and it threw his world upside down. And it's the story of how he processes the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And he goes into and does amazing research on what I'm talking about today. And I think because people don't understand the suffering, right? We weren't there. We didn't see him. And so I think sometimes in the Christian sense, we do a poor job of remembering the suffering because we don't want, let's face it, like how much pain do you want to deal with in your life?
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to deal with it. And I think that you bring this up, it's like the whole, from him coming with the cross to dying, like that's something people don't really want to talk about even in church.
No.
Just because it's such a, gory scene.
Would you just get to the part that's about me being blessed?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? We talked about that with worship.
Right.
Right? We talked about that with worship. Why do we worship, and where does that come from, and why do I think it's important? I believe I'm kind of knowingly causing pain. Like I know that I'm causing pain, and I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing it on purpose to challenge, because without pain we don't change. And there's got to be some sort of interaction. There's got to be some sort of healthy conflict with what. This isn't about you. This isn't about you. You're not the one who was whipped, and you're not the one who was stabbed, and you're not the one who was ridiculed. You're not the one who gave up your life. He is. Stop worshiping yourself.
Right.
Right?
If you think about the story, in church you always are hearing is Jesus died on the cross. There's no talk about, when I say no talk, I'm not saying that you've never brought it up.
You can say whatever you want.
But there's no talk of like him getting to that point.
Right.
And then, all of a sudden he was buried and resurrected, and, everything's hunky-dory again. There's never
get to the part that's about me.
Yeah,
there's never my sins.
There's never the struggle that he went through, the pain that, the disciples seeing all that, what his mom went through.
Well, that's what Easter's for, Matt.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, that happens, and then it's Easter. Yeah.
That's why we have Easter. We do it one time a year.
Exactly.
Okay?
We talk about that once a year.
You go home and you eat lamb. Someone wants to watch The Passion of the Christ, but
Right.
everyone falls asleep.
Right.
But that's the truth of our
Right.
culture. Like, we segment that out. Well, that's for this part. It's not for my everyday life.
But I think that's what we should be thinking about when we're doing communion. Instead of just, Jesus died on the cross, having that visual of just him, nailed to the cross. Okay, his body was beaten. Take my bread. He shed some blood. Drink the juice, and now back to me.
Even the way that we think about him on the cross, like now, Passion of the Christ is not this way, but even when people depict Jesus on the cross, it's like he's not that beat up.
Right.
That's true. That's very true.
It's not like, all right, because we're constantly running into the issue where we are degrading the sacrifice that was made. And that's because we don't want to deal with the truth of the penalty of sin. Human nature is such where we don't want to deal with that. We want to push that away. And most people actually don't believe that they're bad. Most people don't believe that they're evil. Most people don't believe that they have anything to be forgiven of. They just do. They think that the best person that they know. I've talked with you guys about this before. Like, the vast majority of people think that they're the best person that they know. You liars!
Right.
You are liars. They don't think that there's anything to be forgiven of. They don't think that there's a price. And certainly don't show me how bad of a price there was to pay.
Right.
So even the pictures that we have of him, he's got a six-pack, he's yoked, and he's got some nails in his hands. Well, like, that's why you got to watch The Case for Christ, because he goes through this whole routine that the Romans have. And the way that he's hung on the cross is designed to force him to push his back up against the cross, tearing the flesh to get air. And if he doesn't push up like this, he won't breathe. So the whole time he's on the cross, he's choking. He can't.
Was he upside down?
No, that was Peter.
Oh.
Peter tradition, and we don't.
Stuff.
No, it's
Like, it
good.
just popped into my head. I'm like, wait. What's
Yeah.
that?
Well, that was Peter,
Okay.
and tradition holds it that Peter said, "I'm not worthy to be crucified the same way that Christ was." We don't actually know, but that's just kind of church tradition. Is that Peter refuses to be crucified the same way as Christ, and judging Peter from everything in Peter's life, like he's that dude, so he might say that he's that guy. But just it's even that stuff where I feel like we miss it, we don't understand it, and we certainly don't understand it in our culture where persecution for faith is really only starting. It's not as pervasive as it is in other parts of the world. And so we're not used to death in this level. We're not used to dismemberment. We're not used to beheading. This is not part of us as a people. So the idea of someone hanging on a cross, going through that pain, it's foreign to us altogether. It's foreign to us altogether to see that. And yet it's, I think, really important for people to understand the magnitude of what's given for their life.
I mean, you say he was unrecognizable on the cross. I mean, the guy's got a crown of thorns on his head, not Jagger bush, like real thorns dug into his head, pushed in there. Yeah.
Do you think that level of a beating was a reflection of how many people have sinned or had sinned, and the reason that he died? Do you think it had to be that bad?
I believe that you can tell that Pilate in the story is a little bit frustrated with how much they beat him. So when you read through the accounts, you know, Pilate orders a certain punishment, and what he gets back is crazy for the circumstance. It's clear to me that evil is at work, in my opinion. It's clear that something spiritual is going on, right? In this whole interaction, the evil, the brokenness of humanity. Pilate says, "This is an innocent man. I'm just going to have him flogged and release," and they beat the trash out of him, you know. And I see the spiritual realities. I see the depravity of man in the treatment of Jesus. I think it's more of a picture of how mankind has rejected Jesus than it is a need to beat him up. I think that he goes to the cross and he dies, he sacrifices his life. And I think there's validity to be said that by his stripes we're healed in these different things. Those are all, I think all that has meaning and that has value. But the severity of the punishment, I'm not sure. I think it teaches us more about the depravity of the human heart. I think it teaches more about the brokenness of the world than it does that God needing to punish Jesus. Yes, wrath was poured out in his life, and I do think that we can pull that imagery out. I do think that that's true. But God didn't want Jesus to die. He was willing that he should die that we might have life. So I don't want to paint God as a masochist in which he just really, really needed to beat Jesus so we got the picture.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
But there's a penalty for sin, and that I think he bore it on his body.
I feel like for that time, it was excessive. But if you look now at the world that we live in 2026, that the punishment would fit nowadays.
I think that's just your redeemed mind talking, Matt.
I just feel like, like all the stuff going on in the world, just how bad things are, that
gruesome.
And yeah, just how,
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways of looking at it, Matt, because there's a lot of bad things going on in the world, and there's a lot of good going on in the world now because of the life of Jesus Christ, because of the teachings of Jesus, and because of the Christian world. The Christian world has brought so much good into the world. Like the advances that we have in healthcare, all the advances that we have in sciences, all these things are a repercussion, I think, of a free society, a society that's been set free. Now, we're doing a lot of damage to that society, and I would say that that's true. But the world pre-Jesus was a crazy place. It was crazy. And you're a redeemed person now.
Right.
You understand the weight of sin now. You see it in a different way.
Right.
And I think that we look at that and go, yeah, oh my gosh, this is so bad. And I think the only reason we can look at how bad it is because something good has been done inside of us. Because there are some people that say the world's fine. Why does it need to change?
Just turn the news on for 5
Yeah,
minutes.
but it's fine. You know, it is. But it's Trump's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Trump's fault. This is the Republicans' fault. Or before Trump was in office, this is the result of Democrats.
Right.
You know, no, this is the result of sin. This is what sin does in the world, right? And everyone's trying to always make sense of something that makes no sense. Sin makes no sense. It's lawlessness. It makes no sense, and we're always trying to make sense of it, and you can't make sense of it. So I would encourage you, all of us, to not treat this body, which is what this represents, lightly, but to recognize and to learn about the price that was paid. Case for Christ is good. Passion is good. Just also read the gospel accounts. Like, actually read them for what happens, and go and research, because we can now, what all of this means. And I think that you'll hold this bread in your hand a little differently. And I do now. And the longer that I do ministry, the longer that I do work, the more that I learn about God, as you said, the more the harder it is for me, because I realize that he paid this price for us, knowing that we were all going to keep sinning.
Right.
Yeah, I thought about that.
And I just don't understand that. Because when I'm honest with myself, I would pay the price for the people the weak. I'd pay the price for the broken, the homeless, the poor. I'd pay the price for them. I would, okay. Those that I would deem deserving. But when I look at myself, I see a person who would not pay the price for those who don't deserve it. And this separates me from Jesus. Because I don't think I get in my world. I don't think I get my penalties and my sin paid for. And in Jesus' world, I do.
That's what took me a hard time coming back to church, was just everything. I wasn't doing anything super crazy, but I just, I went to church, and growing up in church, you're taught not to do certain things, partying and all that. And I just felt for a long time, going back to church, I'm not worthy of going back to church, I had my shot, because I was drinking and partying and stuff. I wasn't doing drugs or anything like that, but just, on Sunday, we'd be like, do you want to go to church or stay home? Let's just stay home. Let's put the game on, and that would be the end of the thinking of it. And took me a long time to come back, because I felt unworthy of going to church, because, someone died for my sins, and, in my head, I thought I had one shot.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I think those that are listening to this and watching this, so many people try to clean themselves up before they come, and that's why it's so funny to me, but no matter what you do, everyone looks so much nicer on Sunday than they do throughout the week. Because their conscience, I think, is moving. And we want to present ourselves in this way. Now, I think it's good to do that, right? You call it your Sunday's best, right? But I think it's good to do that. But it's very clear to me that people think that they need to clean themselves up before they get washed. People think that they need to prepare themselves in such a way where Christ's going to accept them. And I think the point of communion is he doesn't accept you the way that you are. He died to change you. Right. And he's the one who washes you, and he's the fire who cleans you. So stop trying to get it right yourself and come to the guy who's paid the price and has done the work to get you right. And I hope that comes out in what we do here. I try to tell people, you ain't going to clean yourself up. If you were going to do it, you do it, and you don't need Jesus. But the truth is, you need Jesus, and he is the refiner. He is the thing that is going to clean you. He is the thing that's going to transform you from the inside out, and you need to come to him. And it's so much deeper than acceptance. Our world just is lost in this. You got to accept me, you got to accept me, you got to accept me. But I don't think that's real love. I don't think that's real love. And I think real love challenges you. And it shows you, it puts a mirror in front of you, and it shows you what you're actually like. And it says, okay, now I love you even though you are that way, and I'm willing to walk with you. And by the way, I'm also the one that's paid the price for you. By the way, I'm also the thing that's going to clean you. And by the way, you're in bondage to all that stuff, and in coming to me, I'm going to set you free so that you can live in freedom. So it's so significant, it's so powerful, it's so important.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that's just the body. Yeah, that's just the body. And and I'm actually reflecting. I'm glad that you guys brought this up. I'm just reflecting on myself. I'm reflecting on our practices, and I'm like, man, Kirk, what are you doing?
Because I feel like sometimes in church, a lot of people do things to fit in.
Sure.
I came to church today. Hall invited me to church, oh, she's doing communion. I better do it just because I'm here. Yeah, sure. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why we're doing this.
Right.
But if I stand here and don't do communion, I'm gonna look odd to everyone around me. So I better just do it. Like I've been coming to church my whole life, or So and Sunday we did communion, and I was sitting there with my parents, and I was like, looking around, and I thought, a lot of people don't know what we're doing here, why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I think we need to discuss this and talk about it, because I see people who've never been to church. I'm not saying that they haven't gone somewhere else, but
sure,
it's the first time seeing them, and they're popping the cup open, and I'm in my head I'm going, are you saved? Do you know what you're getting into? I don't, and I'm not going to walk over and be like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Put the cup down if you're not saved. But I thought this would be something we should discuss, get out there,
absolutely,
and share with people.
You're right. And we're talking about, I talked to him on Sunday, like that if we really love someone, we're going to share the truth, and that Jesus shares the truth in love so that we grow up. And he wants us to grow up, he wants us to mature. Right. I think in a lot of ways, church practice needs to mature, it needs to grow up. I think people can handle the truth. I think that they're looking for the truth.
I do too.
Right.
And I find that, the harder that I am on people, it seems like the better it is for them. It seems like the better they get it, It's like you just gotta be, all right, come on. And it's almost counterintuitive because the Lord's the one doing the work, but you've just really got to make it plain and simple for them as best as you possibly can. And I think the table of the Lord does that. The body, his sacrifice, and recognizing what his body does for us, and how much he was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities, and then his blood, and because Jesus says this is the cup of my new covenant. He's making a new promise with us. So you've got the need to remember, because it brings about the significance. You've got the reality of what is physically going on. You got the penalty of sin, and then you've got the reality of blood that is shed for the remission of sins, that covers the mercy seat and gives you access into the Holy of Holies, into Christ, and strengthens you and heals you. And seals the promise. Because this is a blood covenant. This is a covenant that God has made between him and Jesus. It's not even something that you can break. It's not held inside of your hands, as the Bible teaches us, but it's held in heaven. Your inheritance and your salvation, my inheritance and my salvation, is not held by us, if you can think about it that way. Because you can't handle it. You can't hold it. It's like Jack Nicholson, and you've ever seen a few of them. You are the truth. You can't handle the truth. But the truth is that you and I couldn't handle it. And that's what the law teaches us. That's what the law reveals to us. That's what the Old Testament is all about. It's like all the promises and all these things were given to the Jewish people, and the law was given to them. They can't handle it because of the sin. They can't handle it. And so then God institutes a promise and a covenant inside of himself, and that's unbreakable. And because the person who holds the authority and the power, the person who can extend the promise, really, really matters. And so God is the one who extends it, and he makes the promise, and he makes the commitment between him and Jesus Christ. And our salvation is held in a promise between the two of them. And his blood is the thing that seals that. And so it's like we could talk about the body for a long period of time, and I could. But man,
Yeah, I never really understood that until just now.
Yeah, the blood that seals the covenant, because it's a promise being made, and so there is the requirement of that inside of a covenant that's being passed. And so there's a covenant that's being made. There's a promise. And this is a reminder of the promise that my salvation is eternally held with Christ, that it's in him, and that his grace is sufficient for me in my waywardness and in my stubbornness and in my pride and in my sin. He still welcomes me in. And there's nothing like it. There's no promise like it. There's no forgiveness like the forgiveness. Paul says, oh, that you would know the height, the width, the depth, and the love of God for you. That we would know it, that we would receive it. And all that is wrapped up in this stinking juice and wafer. And there's more, and there's more. There's more to it. Now, I read from Hebrews. Hebrews, the whole book of Hebrews goes over these things. It goes over the significance of these things. It talks about Jesus being our high priest, and I think people need to read the Gospels, but I think people need to read the Bible.
Well, just the Bible in
I was
general.
gonna say, let's just start with them reading the Bible.
I know
any part they want.
You gotta read the Bible, but then you gotta find someone who knows what they're talking about the Bible, because of all these crazy people teaching all these crazy things about the Bible, and I'm like, man. I think it actually probably is hard for people to get a sense of truth. It probably is hard for people to get a sense of right, because they've got so many options and they've got so many teachers and they got all this noise in the world about religion. And so, it's hard. I want to say that those that are looking and searching and listening, it is hard. I know it's hard. And when I minister, and you guys are ministering more and more and more, I'm constantly just reminded, like, Lord, take these dumb words that are coming out of my mouth and this time and use it somehow, because I don't know. I leave every Sunday like, I don't know what happened. I hope something good happened.
You talk about that, and I'm always like, oh, he doesn't know he's just being dramatic. And then when I talk to people about God or whatever, and the person I'm talking about that I've been talking to quite a bit, I leave talking to him and I'm like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I should have went and got somebody else. Why am I the one talking to this guy?
Yeah.
I made no sense. And then I was talking to him last Wednesday, and then he shoots me a text, hey, thanks for taking the time. I'm like, oh, at least it made sense to him. Right. Didn't make no sense to me after I was done.
No.
But yeah, I get what you're saying now when you say that, oh, what am I doing? Somebody else, take control.
Because the closer that you get to him and the more you learn about God, the more I'm just amazed that he even allows us to. There's such broken, sin has caused such brokenness in humanity. Mm-hmm. And the closer that you get to God, I think you understand his holiness, and you understand his righteousness, and you understand his love. And it's amazing to me to see this thing that is righteous and just and powerful and loving. And I'm like, man, he could just take me out. But he doesn't. And he could take all of us out, and he doesn't. And his decisions, when you weigh his decisions, and when I weigh God's decisions, I'm like, you're right. You're right. That's the right thing to do. And I think the more honest we are with ourselves, we say, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it. I would do it a different way. Mm-hmm. And I would do it in a way that would serve my own devices, right? I do it in a way that makes sense for me. But how, God, then I just sit in awe of him. And then I just say thank you. Because it's you get to all of it, and you get to, you go through all these dynamics, and then you come back to this simple place of, and yet he loves us, and yet he welcomes us. So thank you. So thanks. Right. So I'm taking this thing. So I'm taking it. I'm gonna drink it, and I'm gonna do it again tomorrow. Because what else is there to do? The way David says it is, what is it that God should think of man, and who are we that you would consider us, that you would make us a little bit lower than the angels? God, what is it that you consider us and that you see our ways? And yet you see our ways and you welcome us. So there's a lot of truth in that. And communion, I think, is that time where we can, where everything else every other distraction, all the other vanities of life should pull themselves away. And for that moment of time, the sacrifice of Jesus should come. So,
should we do communion?
Yeah, we should. We can do communion. Yeah. So I would.
Someone open.
I would caution people, like, and maybe you can take communion yourself after this, but let me caution you to say, don't. This is the communion of the saints, and what a beautiful picture it is that Christ calls us saints, sanctified, those that have been sanctified by the blood, washed by Him. And there's a washing that needs to happen in our lives, and I think there's an ongoing washing that needs to happen in our lives. We all have white shoes on today. And the funny thing about white shoes, while they look great and create nice contrasts in our outfits, they also collect a lot of dirt, right? And if you wear white shoes long enough, eventually they look like mine. They kind of have this kind of like pale beige look to them. The white is faded.
Matt only wears his on Sunday.
Yeah.
He's a Mr. Clean Wipe on him.
Yeah.
Does wonders.
And so the reality is, as you walk through life, there is this kind of dust and dirt and debris that you pick up just as simply being in this world. And I think the reason that we come back to this on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis, is to remember that and to be reminded, no, I'm picking stuff up even if I'm not aware of it. And yeah, I'm with Christ and I'm sanctified with Him and I'm hidden with Him for eternity, but I'm also picking stuff up as I go. And so as I pick these things up, God, I'm asking for you to wash me. I'm asking for you to cleanse me. And I'm asking for you to strengthen me. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, and I hope that makes sense to you guys. And I would say if you have bread, that you can find it. And find any bread, friends, okay? Should it be unleavened bread? Okay, we'll talk about that. All right, but just finding something that can represent His body and holding that up. Now again, if you haven't given your heart over to the Lord, if you haven't confessed with your mouth, believe in your heart that Jesus is the Son of God, then pause here. Go watch The Case for Christ. I'm not joking. And then come back. So pause this, go watch The Case for Christ, come back. Okay, and then now that you're back, we're going to take communion together. Okay? And holding the bread in our hands, we break it. And we break it reminding ourselves that His body was broken for us. Jesus, speaking to His disciples on this night, was forecasting what eventually would happen. He is our Passover lamb. And as He is instituting this, and as He is making this covenant and making this promise, the Passover lamb is being sacrificed in the temple. Okay? And what does that mean? That means that the sins of the culture, the sins of the world are being forgiven. The sins of the Hebrew people are being forgiven. Atonement is being made of the collective sin of the whole nation for the whole year. And the priest is getting ready to enter into the Holy of Holies. And Jesus is getting ready to enter into the Holy of Holies and paving a path for you and for me and for all of us to come into a relationship with God. That's what's going on here. And it's not just something that happened back then, it's something that's happening now and can happen in your life now. So we hold this bread, we break it in remembrance, and then we say, Father, thank you. Thank you for sending your Son, Jesus. Thank you for dying on the cross for me. Thank you for giving your body for me, and that I might have life. And now I receive that life that you have for me today. John 10:10 teaches us, Father, that the thief comes to kill, rob, and destroy, but you came that we might have life and life more abundantly. And I want to receive that life from you right now in this place. And I thank you. We take our stale bread. And then we pull back. And you can get grape juice wherever you are, okay? Or wine. Preferably red wine. You don't want to take white wine. Okay?
The same.
And this represents the blood of my covenant, the blood that has been given for the remission of sins, the blood that is spilt over the mercy seat, the blood that gives us access, the blood that makes atonement, that your sins and my sins and the whole world's sins have been eternally paid for, that the wrath of God has been poured out. God is not trying to destroy you, but God wants to welcome you into his family because he's made a promise to his son that he would do this. And I just want those that are listening, like if they were in that position where Matt is like, hey, I don't want to go around church. I don't want to be around these people. I'm dirty. God knows that you're dirty, and he paid a price for you anyway. God knows that you're broken, and he paid a price for you anyway. And he welcomes you in as a son and as a daughter because he's made a promise to his son who followed through and was obedient.
Amen.
And so we can take this in remembrance. We can take this receiving that promise. Father, I thank you for your promise. I thank you that it's real, that it has power, that it has meaning, and that we will be with you for eternity. Lord, and that you bring health and life to us today. So I thank you for doing that by the power of your Spirit. Amen. And we take it. And then if you were at my church growing up, everyone pass your cups to the right. And then the worship team will worship. But, you know, it's so funny when we do these things. I'm like, man, there's so much.
I know. You could go on for
I could keep talking. I mean, I could talk about anything, but I could talk about God for a long time. I can talk about the things of God for a long time. There's just so much. I feel like I do a disservice to whatever we talk about. Because I'm like, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this.
It's hard to cover everything in the amount of time we have. But
Sure.
we talked about like in the beginning topics and stuff, and we were like, what if we run out of stuff to talk about? And we're like, nah, God's stupid. we won't run out of stuff to talk about.
You can't. Pastors will be like, yeah, I ran out of messages. I don't know what to preach. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? I preach like 10% of what, on a weekly basis, of what I want to talk about. Like, I'm like, I didn't even get to what I want to say. Because any truth about God is forever deep. It doesn't matter what it is. If it is godly, then it is deeper than us.
Yeah.
So we hope that you guys are enjoying this, you're connecting to this. I mean what I said, okay? Don't take communion just yet. Go watch Case for Christ. Go watch The Passion of the Christ. Pause it, come back, and then take communion. And join, get connected. You know, if you're watching this, and we want to encourage you guys to share it, right?
Yes.
Share this podcast on Facebook, Instagram, whatever your socials are. Share it out, send it to people, and share your life with others. Get connected to other people. And yes, it's going to be hard initially, but it's just like any relationship. Holly didn't actually like Matt when they first started hanging out.
It's a true story. It's true.
But over time, Matt and her...
He wore me down.
So the moral of the story today is that you're going to... listen, we just want to encourage you to always getting connected, always getting in a deep relationship with others. You can reach out to us. We need some official comments.
Yeah.
We need some official comments. We've got some cool stuff coming up. And guys, you were talking about 100th episode. We have our first guest request for our podcast that I said to Matt. So you're talking about the podcast arriving. I feel like that helps the podcast arrive.
They just need to respond to an email. It's like, I feel like my email, when I email people back, they go nowhere. They go into email oblivion.
Yeah. Well, your emails will not go into email oblivion if you reach out to us. We'll read them.
I've gotten people's emails and stuff, but when I respond, they go nowhere.
They ghost you. Are you responding in all caps?
Maybe you need to try that.
All right. Well, we love and appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching. We can't wait to see you next week. This is Bringing Hope and Freedom. It's Matt. It's Holly. I'm Coach. See you guys next time.